For more now on the U.S. government shutdown, I'm joined by Bernard Whitman. He is the president of Whitman Insight Strategies and has served as an advisor to 6 former U.S. presidents. He's been involved in a number of political campaigns over the years. He's joining us from New York. Mr. Whitman, what's next?
Well, I'm hopeful that we can get through this in a matter of days, not in a matter of weeks. And I think there's a very clear path forward here. It's a shame because the country is being held hostage by an extreme faction of the Republicans, and Speaker Boehner clearly can't get control of his conference, because if a clean CR, a continuing resolution that would allow the government to be funded, if that were put up for an up or down vote in the House, it would pass. And I think a path forward here is to allow this clean continuing resolution to be put forward in the House. It would pass the House, go on to the Senate, be passed. The government could get up and running with an agreement, and I think that this is fair, that the Senate would take up a House-passed measure that would repeal the excise tax on medical devices, which is one of the key things that the GOP wants, and I think that would pass the Senate. So I think we get both these bills passed.
Bernard, let me put the brakes on this for just a second, because I want to introduce our other guest, Chris Roebling, who joins us from Chicago. Chris, let me ask you the same question. What's next?
Well, I hope what is next is actual negotiations between the Senate and the House. That's how the system works. We've seen 17 government shutdowns since the early 1970s. And what happens at a moment like this, when the Senate passes one bill and the House passes another, they put together a conference committee to talk it out. That's what we need to have happen. And unfortunately, the Democrats in the Senate and President Obama, for his part, have not been pushing the negotiation ball. They've been sort of pushing the stall ball. And now we have a shutdown.
Chris, let me interrupt you for just a second, because a law was passed here in the United States, and then it was challenged in the Supreme Court. And nine folks in black robes said this is the law of the land. Normally when that happens, even if you don't like it, people tend to go along with it, because when you look at Bush v. Gore in 2000, a lot of Democrats felt like the Republicans stole that election, yet they didn't try and stall the government. So, I mean, isn't there some point when they have to turn the page and move on?
Well, everybody is trying to move on, and the question is how best to do so. You have a majority in the United States House of Representatives that was elected promising to do everything it could to stop Obamacare. Now, that's inconvenient for the president, and it's inconvenient for Harry Reid, but those members have to go back to their districts. And there are senators in the United States Senate who have promised to stop Obamacare. What that means is that people have to keep talking every time one of these funding measures come up. And right now, the Senate Democrats are not talking to the House Republicans, and so we don't have any process. But I agree with Bernard. I hope this can be resolved in a couple of days.
Bernard, what do you make of what Chris is saying? I mean, you have candidates who ran for office saying, hey, I'm going to stop this thing, and they're kind of digging in their heels.
Well, actually, Chris is partially right. You have a minority of the House that was elected basically on a pledge to shut the government down and defund Obamacare at any cost. And by the way, that's exactly the strategy that they're pursuing. And when you have people like Karl Rove, who is the mastermind behind Bush's 2 elections, saying, you know what, that's a really stupid strategy. It's a dumb tactic, and ultimately will cause irreparable harm to the Republican Party, number one, and if it goes on for even a couple weeks, the economy, number 2. A government shutdown for just a few weeks will cut the GDP growth in half, from 3 to about 1.4%. If it goes on for a month, we will enter a recession. And look, I was advising Bill Clinton in 1995 when Newt Gingrich shut down the government. And you know what happened? The Republicans were elected, contract with America, very popular. They overreached. They went too far. They shut down the government. That directly led to the reelection of President Clinton. And once again, you had the Republicans shooting themselves in the foot. Obamacare is not supported by a majority of people right now. If the Republicans had pushed to make changes in Obamacare, they would have forced the Democrats to come to the table. But instead, they said, you know what? We're going to take all our Marlboros and go home. And 70% of the public believes that they're acting like spoiled children. By a margin of 46 to 36, they blame the Republicans. The Republicans are going to be the huge political losers.
Chris, let me draw Chris in here. Let me get Chris in here. Is this going to backfire on the Republicans? Was it a dumb strategy?
Well, it's not for me to say it's a dumb strategy, because I haven't put my name on the line like Bernard. We have not run for office. He's not a senator. I'm not a congressman. That's up to them. I think what we have to deal with here is public opinion, as it is being represented by the senators and the congressmen who are saying we have to take steps. And I also want to emphasize here that over the last 8 days, Republicans have pared back their demands. They did on the 20th of September say that they were seeking a complete shutdown of Obamacare. Then they moved that back. They said, look, we'll delay it for a year. Then they came back another time and they said, look, we'll just delay the individual mandate because President Obama has illegally given breaks to his campaign contributors, to big corporations, and to big labor unions. And so the Republicans on the House side keep trying to find a formula that will bring Senate Democrats into doing their job in a conference committee.
Well, Chris,
so far, it has not worked.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I want to thank you and Bernard for joining us. Chris in Chicago, Bernard from New York, discussing the latest events here in Washington, D.C. today.